Freddie K from Team PR Pokémon, and today what we're going to be looking at is a deck that has done really well on the previous weekend. It is Espeon-GX Garbodor. It was first place at Portland Regionals in the US of A. It's the standard format, and Xander actually piloted this to first place position. Now Xander is well known on the circuit. I had the honour of meeting him at the European Internationals. Really cool player. Xander as well was third in 2017 at Worlds, so a very accomplished player. Regularly tops some of the tournaments that take place in the difficult regionals that are in the USA, and this is his deck. So it starts off with the Eevee line, which is slightly thinner than perhaps anticipated, because the star of the story, I think, is Garbodor, and it's Trash and Launch Garbodor, which hasn't seen too much play at the start of the Ultra Prism series, and also in just post Guardians Rising. People start to play Garbodor, but then with the newer sets that came out, the Crimson Invasion and Burning Shadows, it started to wane because decks were starting to rely a little more on supporter setups. But I think now people have cottoned on to the fact that this deck, which ironically pretty similar to the deck that Xander took to third place at Worlds last year, this deck has really started to gain a lot of traction at the moment. So Garbodor, Trash-a-Lanche, 20 damage times each item card in your opponent's discard pile, so it automatically slows them down and restricts them. Espeon's Psybeam attack is absolutely fantastic, just to start off the early game pressure. We've also got some really interesting techs in the deck. We've got Tauros and Drampa-GX. Drampa-GX only with just a one-off. Tauros also helps deal with quite a few niche matchups as well. The thing I like about this deck as well is that it also has some really super levels of consistency. 4 Guzma, 4 N. You've got 3 Sycamore Cynthia line. You've got the 4 Float Stone, 4 Choice Band, just to max out on the chances of using Garbodor and Garbodor. Just keep that lock in play. See quite a few decks doing really well with Bursting Balloon to allow Garbodor to use Garbotoxin on your opponent's turn, but as well as that, the Bursting Balloon can come off and allow you to use your own abilities. So sometimes we've seen Zoroark-GX being combined with Garbotox and Garbodor in recent tournaments as well. 7 Psychic Energy. 7 Psychic Energy in this deck. You can float between 7 and 8. This has Super Rod as well, so maybe Super Rod could be seen to be the 8th energy. But here is the deck, and we start off with Drampa. So it's just a one-off. It's a Righteous Edge. Discard a special energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. So Drampa is actually really good for several different matchups. For example, if you are versus Bulu, you can actually use Drampa to soften a Bulu and bring it within range. So it's a nice little 20 to take it down to 160, and then you could just use the second attack, which is Berserk, 150. That could be, you'll actually have 2 Righteous Edge opportunities to take it down. So that's an interesting one. Versus Hooper, obviously Garbotox and Garbodor would actually be in play. So you could then attack into the Hooper. You could actually start to remove double Colorless energies. What else? Versus Mirror is really interesting, because this is starting to get a lot of traction. It's actually first and second place at Portland Regionals, and the finals were actually a 60 card final as well, so it's really interesting. The fact that 2 decks in such an important regionals actually made it right to the very top just goes to show showcase the strength of this deck. Okay, so we've got Energy Evolution Eevee, so you don't mind starting with Energy Evolution Eevee. I must say also, by the way, Big Wheel GX, very, very useful GX attack if you're actually stuck in a tight spot. Big Wheel GX, just shuffle your hand into your deck, draw 10 cards, the least that it will be is 6 if your opponent early game ends. So, okay, the only thing that you just have to be really, really wary of is the weakness. If your opponent's playing Buzzwole, you wouldn't even dream to put this down. So there is really no attack on Drampa that is disadvantageous in any way. Eevee, you do not mind starting off with Energy Evolution. It's just a couple of points maybe if you are up against the mirror. Just be wary of whether you actually want to go with Eevee going into Espeon-GX or going through multiple lines of Garbodor, Trash and Edge Garbodor. So more on that in a little while. You wouldn't really use Quick Draw, you would actually try and evolve this as quickly as possible. It's a 2-2 line. Quite cool to see this 2-2 line, because I remember, looking back at decks that Tord Reclair, for example, ran. He ran like heavy Drampa, Garbodor decks, but then, just like the little techie Espeon-GX, it does its job. 2-2 is just about right. With 3-2, 3-3, maybe, it could be interesting. 2-2 is actually just about right with this deck. Psybeam, totally underrated attack. Psybeam, your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused very, very little in this game to actually allow you to efficiently retreat. Apart from Float Stone, if they're playing Float Stone, you've got your Field Blowers, it just adds to Trash Lancer's attack. 30 just softens up stuff, confuses them, so again great against things like Bulu. You've also got you also got the option of Divide GX, so if you're up against something like Garbodor, you can just Divide GX basics. Anything really that has basics, you've always got the option of just dividing and taking multiple prizes as well. So the great thing as well is, let's say for example if you're up against a Sylveon, you want to try and confuse them. Confusion will allow you to get an extra 30 if you've got a Choice Band, and suddenly becomes 90 because you've got 30 base damage. You've got Choice Band, get up against the GX, make it to 60, and then they hit themselves, it's 90. By that stage, you've got Psychic as an option. You could just just attack them with Psychic. If they've got 1 energy at least on them, that would be 120. That's pretty much enough, to take down virtually everything that you want to. 90 plus 120 would be 210, and that's Ultra Ball over and out of the way as well. So yeah, it's really, really useful. Divide GX as well. If it's like a slow cooking game, you can just start to divide everything around, as long as they don't use Ace Roller or something like that just to multiple heal their attacks. But they can't if you're dividing across. You want to try and divide as much as possible to take prizes that turn. Okay, so it's like a super duper Oricorio attack. Right, okay, Tauros-GX. Okay, so what you want to do with Tauros is you want to use this as much as possible versus matchups like Greninja. You don't need a hard counter like Giratina Promo, although Giratina Promo would be great in this deck as well. But versus Greninja, if you've suddenly got lots and lots of attack damage counters on you, you could then just Mad Bull GX, you can knock them out. Horn Attack is great against Fruitkeys, so you can help Horn Attack and then Horn Attack again, just knock them out, just force them to take the issue, destroying all of their lines very, very quickly. As soon as you get to something like Greninja Break, if they just hit you on the bench, you can then knock out their Greninja Break as well. So there's that's really good. Versus Zoroark, so Zoroark can't one-hit KO this, which is really, really cool. So with their Zoroark goes down, that's 3 cards, and that's their drawing ability as well. So they would hit you, and then you just Mad Bull GX them back again, and it's great. You know, you've cool card advantage there to secure more control over the board. Yeah, against Mirror, this is really good as well. You've got Mad Bull GX as an option. Horn Attack if you wanted to take down one of their Eevees as well. It's a really cool attack. So all in all, great utility card. Great to see Tauros coming back as well, but just watch out for that weakness, watch out for that retreat. Cost, make sure you've got Float Stones around. So you've got Acid Spray, not to be underestimated. 10 with the Choice Band is 14. You've got an energy removal, Crushing Hammer effect, which is great to see. Evolves up to Treasure Lounge Garbodor, but you can also use Acid Spray. So 70 plus Choice Band will be 100. Take out your opponent's Espeon-GXs if they start attacking you with that, and you can just start the Garbodor wars as well. We've also got Garbotoxin. So before I don't think it's going to be lasting through rotation in after Worlds this year. So make the most of it. Garbotoxin, Offensive Bomb. Don't really use that attack too many times, I have to say, but Garbotoxin is a real pain for your opponent to have to deal with. You might have to use Wonder Tag in order to get a supporter before you switch on Garbotoxin, so just bear that in mind. 2 Field Blower, and just a useful utility card. You want to try and Field Blow your opponent's tools, maybe if they've got Parallel City in play, just reverse that because you have 2 parallels yourself. You want to use that, effectively see that as being an extra 40 damage. You've got Super Rod because you've got 7 energy, so at some stage you probably want to recycle the energies, but to be honest, the attackers here are really efficient. So 7's not too bad as Psychic Energy count. 4 Ultra Ball for searching your deck. You've got Parallel City, which is great early setup. Just completely clamp down on your opponent's setup. Put the blue side on there. There's absolutely no disadvantage whatsoever. You might think about raising it to 2 Brigette if you're really able to throw away one of the cards, for draw power. But I think Brigette, when you need it, you need it. If you don't, it's not too bad. You can still deal with what you've got pretty much, because you've got 3 Cynthia, you've got 4 N, you've got 3 Sycamore, so you're pretty much going to draw into whatever it is. You're going to be attaching constantly your Choice Bands, your Float Stones, especially when you are up against a deck that is not Mirror. So 1 Brigette, just about okay. And it's great to see 4 Guzma in here. It's just like, the sniping ability, the ability for your deck to be just completely closing the game is a real advantage, especially with late game ends. You really want to try and get that Guzma. It's like, you draw into the Guzma, there you go. Alright, okay, so that's pretty much an overview of the deck. We have featured Espeon Garb in the past. So what we're going to do is we're going to what I term tutorials. I'm going to go through, comment on 3 straight games that I've just been playing on, that I'll be playing on PTCGO, and hope you enjoy the games, and hope we'll get some great results, and it will showcase how to use this deck. If you're a beginner, I hope it will be useful for you to watch. So we'll be right back, and don't go away. Okay, so we are going to be playing against a Psychic deck. It'll be interesting to see what type of Psychic deck. So let's find out. We've got a good start over here. We've got the Eevee. Got the Eevee start. No energy, but we should be able to find an energy through N. I'm not going to place down, even though I know that my opponent is playing Psychic, I'm not going to place down the Drampa just yet. I did also have an option of putting the Drampa down first for Big Blue GX. So this could turn out to be a mirror match. Let's just find out. Yeah, definitely with the 2 Espeons in hand, absolutely no point in placing down the energy if I did have the energy in hand as well. Could Float Stone, but then what I'd need to do is I'd need to retreat if I have Big Wheel GX. I'm going to put the Drampa down anyway, because that might be useful to remove my opponent's double colourless energies. I don't really want to play down too many items at this moment in time, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play the N. Now that really doesn't help because I do have a shortage of energy, so that is a little bit problematic. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the Parallel City down to reduce my opponent's setup, and I'm tempted to play the Lele down and then Wonder Tag for something quite significant. If there is something that's significant, I'm also thinking of playing the Sycamore as well, but I'm going to play the support just in case my opponent actually removes the abilities. No point in taking a Sycamore. I could play the Endblet, that would set up my opponent. Guzma would be interesting as well. I think maybe Guzma, because if my opponent does put down a double colourless at some stage, I could remove it. And yeah, maybe, I'm not sure. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna play the Guzma. Yeah, do you know what? I'm gonna play the Guzma. Because if I do get damaged, I can also get whatever is in the active position out of the way. And I'm going to put the double colourless on the Drampa as well. And I'm just going to click done. There's not really much I could do at this stage with no psychic energy in my hand. Do have the Guzma. Just to stall a turn, I could Big Wheel GX if I don't draw any energy in my next turn. It's a bit of a slow setup anyway, and it is a mirror match, so that's going to be quite important now, because my opponent will only be able to do 60 damage, and I will be able to remove my opponent's double colour, slowing down his play if I used Righteous Edge. Okay, so that's one item. Magic number is going to be 3 items, and it's just a case of really waiting, carefully setting up, and seeing whether I can outlast my opponent. So my opponent starts off with the Garbodor. I think he's just going straight for a Garbodor setup. It was quite useful. He played the Sycamore with a completely empty hand, but he can't set up anything. Now I do have another Eevee in hand, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to play the Guzma out for the Tauros. If I hit him, he'd be able to do 60 a maximum. I'm going to put the other Eevee down as well, because I'm not really restricted. And I'm going to Righteous Edge. So with a bit of luck, a couple of turns would be coming my way, because I will not be having to keep up with the energy drops. I can drop an energy hopefully next turn, but I've got zero items in my discard pile as well. my opponent is completely restricted at the moment. If he attaches another double Colorless energy, he will be Righteous Edged again. What I can also do is I can Big Wheel GX as well. The maximum he can do is 60 with a Horn attack. I think I'll be able to survive that. So I'm going to Big Wheel, play out my GX attack, and hopefully be able to set up an Eevee, which I do have options now for. I do have the Trubbish, and I do have Ultra Ball if I need to. I've got Psychic Energy to get Espeons out. My opponent has played one item already, so the maximum I could do is 40 damage with Strash Launch. However, he cannot do anything at this moment in time. He's got a Float Stone, so my opponent is going to elect to retreat and perhaps attack with Lele. I think he's in a bit of a rut right now. So if he was able to hit me for 80 damage, which indeed he's going to do, 110 now, he's going to try and set up himself for a knockout on Drampa. Now I do think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down the 2 Trubbish, and then what I'm going to do is I'm really tempted to evolve up to the Espeon and confuse him at the same time, which I think I'm going to do. And again, that will put him in a position where he will be confused, and I will then have the capacity of being able to do Psychic on the next turn, or even Divide if he puts down any basics. I'm just going to toy with him at the moment. I want to run him down on energy. Thanks, Zach, for the reminder. Now, he could do some damage with Taurus if he does that. He would again be wasting an energy attachment. But he ends me, which is not too bad at all. He would have to get rid of the energy if he wanted to retreat, and he's also confused as well. So my opponent is in a little bit of a pickle at the moment. I'm not playing any items down whatsoever. He has played 3 items down, which is critical. I could Guzma up one of his Garbodors and confuse his Garbodor. Okay, so my opponent is now thinking maybe he could play Mad Bull GX to get 60 damage on to my Pokemon. And he has not got any energy, which is very, very interesting. And what I could do is, I know that I've got the Espeon-GX in my deck, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to Guzma up his Garbodor. Again, because I have 0 items in play whatsoever, I can safely attack his Garbodor, confuse it, force the issue, and start to take prizes as well. The Garbodor, I think, will be the biggest threat. My opponent will only be able to discard a Parallel City if he played Field Blower. And I think what my opponent wants to do is my opponent actually wants me to play items down. Okay, so he is now committed to an energy drive. He takes 2 prizes, but that is not too bad at all. It's not a problem because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to confuse him again. And I think what I could also do is I could end my opponent down. Get more options. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get a Tapu Lele supporter card. I could land 90 damage onto his Tauros. Don't really want to do that just yet. But what I also could do is I could Guzma up his other Garbodor at some stage and then play Divine. However, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to solidify my board position, not play down the Choice Band. Don't want to do that just yet. And I'm quite alright just holding on to my position at the moment, confusing him, forcing him to remove his energies. He's got 1 double colorless, 2 double colorless in the discard pile. I have no items. Not playing double colorless on my active, so he can't just hit out for 130, which he could do with Energy Drive. Energy Drive would only do 90 damage, so my Espeon-GX would be pretty safe. He's now forced to play the Parallel City, removing card Field Blower. And all I would need to do is just clear up with Garbodor, which I could do. That's really interesting. I don't think he's got any options at the moment, so he might be playing a Cynthia or a Guzma. Now this is really interesting now. So what is he playing? He's playing the Espeon, and he's going to retreat. He's going to try and attack me for 130. Now what I can do is I can attack him for 120 just by doing Psychic. 90, 120. 120 would knock him out. And I'm looking at my hand. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to force the issue, try and find my Trash and Lanch Garbodors, which indeed I do. I do find one. My opponent has 4 items in the discard pile, so that would be 80 damage maximum. I think at this stage what I need to do is I need to trade with him. So I need to start taking prizes now. He's going to try and force the issue. He's going to try and knock out my Espeon-GX. The interesting thing is now he has used up 3 of his 4 double colorless energies. And he is in a tight spot as well. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4 items again. 5 items now in the discard pile. So he is restricted now because he can only do 60 through Mad Bull GX. And he can only do 60 as well with Horn Attack too, so my Espeon survives. I would be tempted to play the Field Blower. If I do play the Field Blower, that would mean that my opponent would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so I could do 120. 120 plus the 20 would not be able to knock him out. He would just be at 140. I'm thinking with the Choice Band as well. What I'm quite tempted to do, because my opponent has now played 2 of his, I assume, 3 or 4 Guzma, is that I'm tempted to confuse him. So I'm going to retreat. No, I'm not. I'm going to play Psychic, because that was possibly the better option. If I did confuse him, he would just retreat using Float Stone. So that's really interesting, because he has now decided to take out the Espeon-GX that I have in hand on my bench, and he's now going to use Mad Bull. You can see a win condition, but it does rely on him getting a Guzma. I am tempted to look for something after an N, which I'm gonna put out the Garbodor. I'm gonna Parallel City him again, just to. Well, I could Parallel City myself and remove the damaged Espeon, which I think that's probably going to be the better option, even though that is my fully charged Espeon. I am now going to remove the Float Stone and the other Float Stone, so up his item count. Let's see how many items he has. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items, so he can do. So I can hit out for 140 damage. And now going to end him. I think he said well played, because he probably had the winning combination. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to Trash-a-Lanch him. He's got 140 now on him. A Choice Band would be enough to take the game if he promotes the Lele. He has, again, no items to take advantage of in the discard pile. So the best that he could do is he could maybe hope for an Acid Spray. A Choice Band would be enough to take the game. To be perfectly honest, I could just go for it. There would only be 1 item in the discard pile. I'm going to put the Float Stone on the other Garbodor. I'm going to see whether I can thin my deck out a little more by taking out an unnecessary, unneeded Garbodor, so I could discard that. I just need the Choice Band. I do not get the Choice Band, but what I do get is I get a Garbodor on the bench. So what I can do is I can retreat. He would be down to 1 prize. I would be down to 1 prize. I could put the Float Stone down, but I'm not going to, because he could play a Field Blower. That would be 60. He could have an alternative attacker. I do have the option of Lele, as long as he doesn't have a Garbodor in play. I should with 23 cards in my opponent's deck, should be able to get something. Okay, and I do manage to get the Guzma with the top deck. And Trash and Lunch for the game. So there you have it. That's how I would suggest the mirror is taken. Try and restrict the items down to as few as possible, and really just play it slow. It basically rewards those people, the player who gets that up first and also doesn't overextend to the point where your opponent can take advantage of Garbodor, Trash and Lunch Garbodor, I should say. The only thing that you really need to try and maybe look out for is Garbodor's attacking with Garbodors. If your opponent can actually play Acid Spray on the Garbodor, if your opponent doesn't see you play that many items, then that is an option for them. So my opponent was setting up his Garbodors. What Garbodor can actually also do is, with a Choice Band on the actual Garbodor, it can knock out Espeons. So maybe in hindsight, what I ought to have done is I ought to have just completely ignored the Espeons. You just have to take it really at the point where you have it, and you have to sort of think, well, maybe I could actually deal with it straight away with the Espeons. But look out for that, because if you're not playing items, they can still do really well with Garbodor. They can just Choice Band their Trash and Lunch Garbodor. You might think, oh, I'm completely safe. I don't have any kind of attack to be scared of, and then suddenly what happens is they put the double Colorless on there. So not letting my opponent attach those energies, making sure that I actually set up with the Drampa was indeed advantageous for me, because what my opponent was then not able to do was my opponent was not able to get back the double Colorless. He'd used it up, and as a result I could just then clear for the game. So there you go. Great game. Let's see what the next one holds for us. Okay, so playing Luca. Yeah, I've played Luca in the past. Not sure what he's playing. He's got the starter sleeves. I'm going to go for a Trubbish. We don't really mind starting with Trubbish in this deck. I've got a good start with Lele. Okay, so very nicely having an early Parallel City, because I know Magnemites do have a rapid start. It's retreat cost. Okay, so that's absolutely fine. It will restrict my opponent's start. Don't have to worry about use of items right now. I'm just going to see if I can find the Brigette. I do get scared with the single Brigette in here. Maybe, I'd like to have a second Brigette just in case, but it's okay right now. It's not bad. Not a bad start at all. Brigette, let's play the Brigette. And what I really would like to have is the is the ability to get an Eevee out right now. Unfortunately, I won't be able to. I don't think Drampa-GX is required at this stage. Just having a look. I do have the Garbotox and Garbodors are available. I've got one energy prize as well. So overall, it's not too bad. It's not too bad at the moment. I do have the capability to get another Lele next turn. Could Super Rod the Garbodor. Back into the deck. Won't need it early game. I think maybe like Garbotox and Garbodor would actually be a little more important at this stage. So my opponent is definitely playing a metal deck. He's playing Duskmane Necrozma. I think what's going to be vital is me closing down his abilities as quickly as possible. Opponent pulls off a fantastic Lily early game. And Overclock is actually a really not too bad a card at all whatsoever. Right, okay, so I'm going to Ultra Ball my my Garbodor and my Parallel City. I top deck the Sycamore, so it's not it's not a bad option to take. Super Rod, I'm going to play the Super Rod. Bring back the Garbodor. It's my only basic. Sorry, so only basic or evolution or energy, so that goes straight back in there. Can't see me getting an advantage of field blowing my own Parallel City. I do have the option now of turning on Garbodor. Yes, I do want to get something from the energy evolution. A bit lucky also that I've got an Espeon-GX prize as well. Now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to only use one to tag before I shut down my own abilities. And I think what I'm going to do is potentially go for a Guzma. I think Cynthia, well, I've got some great resources, but I also have N in hand as well. I think I've got my energy, so I'm okay at the moment. I'm just going to keep Guzma in my hand, just in case he Guzma's out the Garbodor. And I'm going to switch off the powers and then we'll see what he has to answer. So, Order Pad's pretty good because that's just extra items for me. So he has 1, 2, 3, 4 items. He's just got an Ultra Ball. That's a 5th item. 6th item because Red Candy is in the discard pile now. Seven items, it's 140, which really does help. So it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Huge reliance on large reliance on items within this deck. Meteor Tempest will do 220 if I can confuse him. That would put him at a bit of a loss. So I'm gonna save my Garbodor, my Trashalanch Garbodor. for an attack later on. I do have the double Colorless, so I'm going to confuse my opponent. And he's down to 180 because of resistance. 3, so he's got 7 items, which is effectively 6 items because of resistance. So 120 is the max I can actually do. Very interestingly, he's now put a Magnemite on the bench. He is aiming to go for Meteor Tempest. That's 150. All his energies would go. I could psychic him. Very tempted to do that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to retreat and energy drive him. I can now exploit the fact that he only has 1 card in his deck. And I'm ready to go now. Everything just seems to be set up. I'm going to energy drive, which does 100 damage to him. I do miss the choice band, but I'm in a good position at the moment. A really good position, because he could get a Meteor Tempest, but he is under confusion and he actually hits himself, so that's actually fantastic. And he gives up, so there you go. Really well positioned to deal with a deck that you would actually consider slightly harder to defeat. And what did it was the confusion. The confusion just but even if my opponent did not get out of confusion, the fact that I shut down his ability to get multiple energies on the board using Garbotox and Garbodor. I had the Guzma as well, just to prevent him from bringing out Garbodor. So just a little bit of foresight there, making sure that I was using the choice band to shut down his powers. Now, if that did happen, what I would have been able to do is I would have been able to Guzma it back to the bench, or if he played Field Blower, then what I would have been able to do is I would have been able to attach Float Stone. I did use the Super Rod rather early, but it was going to be discarded anyway. I didn't want to set up my opponent. So a really, really well placed deck, I think, for taking on maybe the metal decks that everyone thought would be completely dominating the meta at the moment. Let's go and let's see how it does for one final game. Black Tyranno 91. So I didn't spot what my opponent. I never spot what my opponent plays. I always try and figure it out as if I'm playing them. So it's just one of the things I don't really like to see. Obviously, in a tournament, you would be at a slightly greater advantage. I started off with the Brigette. I've got the Eevee. My opponent now knows what I have in my hand, which is absolutely fine because I've got the Lele in hand. I'll be able to search using Energy Evolution to see what I needed to commit to, and it's a good start. A really good start, actually. Oh, okay, so it is looking as if it is a mirror. Which is a difficult one. I do want to get the Espeon-GX out, but the problem is that Acid Spray could do 80 to me if he attaches a choice band right away. However, what I can then do is I can actually play on that fact. So I'm going to respond to that because I can't afford not to not to do something and force the tempo of the game. I'm going to get all of my Trubbish out. So I want to win this Trubbish war. I'm going to put out Parallel City and keep him restricted. And could I be tempted to actually retreat? That is actually tempting, I have to say. That is tempting. I'm going to keep it like that. Okay, so that's one item. Okay, that's interesting because my opponent has now decided to go with the Eevee as well. Which is counterintuitive. Now, what's also interesting is that my opponent does not have energy on his active too. So, okay. I definitely want to use that. What am I going to do on the next turn? I will confuse him, and then what I will be able to do is potentially psychic. Sorry, divide. I could do that. Don't really want to get rid of my item just yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Cynthia. Hopefully get a Garbatoxin Garbodors. No. Sorry, not Garbatoxin Garbodors. I want to put that out definitely. All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to restrict his capability of getting Lele off. I'm going to Psybeam him, and then what I will do is I will divide. Okay, so that's good and bad because he could still Float Stone. 60, 90. So Choice Band and a Float Stone would knock out my Espeon-GX. He has one item in his discard pile. However, a Choice Band for me with Acid Spray would knock out his Espeon. So that's what I'm going to do. Oh heck. 90, 120, 150. So I could actually knock out his Espeon-GX. Take the first two prizes. Yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do that. I thought he was going to attack with Choice Band, but apparently not. So an Acid Spray would knock me out. And he has one item in the discard pile. Which makes it a bit difficult. I am forced to search for a Choice Band. No, search for a double Colorless. And ideally I would have liked to have N as an option. Oh dear. This is horrible. Okay, so what I will do is I will Guzma up his Trubbish. And knock it out. I'm going to put the other Trubbish down because he could knock out one of the Trubbishes and I would be restricted. So I'm winning the prize trade at the moment. No items, again restricting my item count. It's just another item now. Okay, so he still wants to go for the Espeon line. Oh dear. So he played the Lele down. Maybe he wanted to use that as an attacker. I think he's just going to Acid Spray next turn. Or he's hoping maybe to get that second Garbodor out. Maybe with a double Colorless and hit me for 70. Oh dear me. It's not looking good. He can still go either way at this moment in time. And that was unfortunate. See how many items my opponent is playing. He's played 3. So Choice Band would well, the removal of a Choice Band would help. I don't want to end my opponent. He's got 4, I've got 3. Sycamore would be ideal. A big wheel would be even better. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to big wheel. So hopefully I'll get a Float Stone. I can get out of this position. No Float Stone. Wow, that's interesting. Again, Garbodor. Oh, thank goodness! My opponent is hitting Tails, and I also have the Float Stone as well. So I also have a Guzma. And if I was to Guzma up my opponent's Eevee, that would be an advantage. Because his Eevee has 60 HP and my opponent has 3 trainers, 3 items. The alternative would be to let the Eevee become an Espeon, but then I would be confused. So I'm going to bring up the Eevee. I'm going to attach a Psychic Energy because if he does Acid Spray me, I can retaliate the KO. Really would like to bring the Float Stone, put the Float Stone on the Drampa in case he ends me, but I don't think N is really going to be advantageous to him. I'm going to take out the Eevee. I've got 2 prizes left. And hopefully it'll just be an exchange now. We'll see. Okay, completely restricting my item use. He has no energy on the board. He could hit me for 80 with a double Colorless on Lele. He could acid spray me, but I think I have enough to secure the game. There we go. Okay, so 3 really good showcased tutorial games to show exactly how this deck should be used. 2 wins against Mirror, so I hope that really helps. Thank you for watching. Give a like and subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate that. And hopefully we will come back to you with another really good deck in the meta before this coming weekend, where I'll be at Manchester League Cup. If I see you there, give us a shout. Really appreciate it. And thank you for watching. Take care. Bye.